One day, you just stop calling. You stop checking in. You stop sending that just making sure you're okay message. And suddenly, the person who barely noticed your effort starts wondering where you went. Funny how that works. People often ignore the water while the tap is running. They only panic when the sink runs dry. And it gets worse. The greatest mistake you can make after being taken for granted is trying harder explaining yourself, begging to be appreciated, trying to convince someone of your value. Because people rarely appreciate what they never have to lose. Today, we're breaking down the 7 psychological stages someone experiences after you quietly walk away. No drama, no revenge, just silence. And by the end, you'll understand why your absence can teach lessons. Your presence never could. 1. They feel confusion before they feel regret. Most people think the first emotion is sadness. It's confusion because you've interrupted their routine. They expected you to text first, to forgive first, to always be there. You became part of the background, like electricity. Nobody thanks the lights until they go out. So when you disappear, their brain keeps expecting you to show up. They check their phone, look at your profile, open old conversations not because they suddenly love you, but because their normal no longer feels normal. 2. They start replaying everything. Silence creates something arguments never can. Reflection. The conversations they ignored now replay. The messages they never answered now matter. The times they dismissed your feelings return like unwanted advertisements. When you're constantly available, people rarely review your value. When you're gone, your memory starts editing the movie, and strangely, people remember your kindness far more clearly after they lose access to it. 3. Curiosity turns into obsession. Human beings hate unfinished stories. It's why unanswered questions stay alive for years. When you leave without begging, without chasing, without trying to prove your worth, you become an unanswered question. Are they happier? Did they replace me? Do they even think about me anymore? The less information they have, the more stories they invent. Mystery fills empty space, not because you're playing games, but because silence forces imagination to do all the work. And imagination is usually far harsher than reality. 4. They start comparing everyone to you. The little things they ignored become impossible not to notice. Nobody checks on them the way you did. Nobody listens the same way. At first, they told themselves you were replaceable. Then replacement arrives, and somehow it doesn't fit. People don't realize your value while they're counting your flaws. They realize it when they discover your qualities weren't as common as they assumed. 5. Their ego starts fighting their conscience. This is the quiet war nobody sees. Their pride says, they'll come back. Their conscience whispers, what if they don't? It's easier to blame someone else than admit your own behavior cost you someone valuable. People can lie to friends, they can lie on social media. It's much harder to lie to yourself at 2 in the morning when the room is quiet. 6. Scarcity makes the loss finally real. A phone battery at 98% means nothing. At 2%, it's suddenly precious. Relationships work the same way. While you kept showing up, your loyalty became expected. Your patience became normal. Your effort became invisible. Once it disappears, everything gets revalued. The rides, the conversations, the encouragement, the consistency. They weren't small after all. They were expensive. And the painful part is, understanding usually arrives after opportunity has already left. Late appreciation still arrives late. 7. The hardest person they face is themselves. Eventually, the questions stop being about you. They become, why do people keep leaving? Why do I always lose good people? Am I the common denominator? That's a terrifying question, because blaming everyone else is comfortable. Looking in the mirror isn't. Some people avoid that mirror forever. Find another person, repeat the same habits. Others finally change not because someone argued with them, but because losing someone forced them to confront a version of themselves they could no longer ignore. Here's what most people misunderstand. Walking away isn't about making someone miss you. If that's your goal, you're still emotionally attached. Walking away is about protecting your peace, refusing to spend another year convincing someone to appreciate what you've already been giving freely. Some people won't recognize your value until you're gone. Some never will. Neither outcome should determine your next decision, because your worth isn't measured by someone else's realization. It's measured by what you're willing to tolerate. A diamond doesn't lose density because a stranger mistook it for glass. Someone else's poor judgment was never a referendum on what you're actually made of. It's just a reflection of what they were equipped to see. Never confuse being needed with being valued. Never confuse being available with being appreciated. Needed simply means useful in the moment. The same way a spare tire is needed during a flat and forgotten completely the second the road smooths out again. Valued means someone would still choose you even when nothing was required of you. Those two things can look identical from a distance, but only one of them survives an ordinary Tuesday when there's nothing to extract. And never stay somewhere. Your presence is treated like a convenience instead of a privilege. A privilege gets protected. A convenience just gets used until something easier comes along.